This thing is just slightly bent. If I believed in luck, I would say Tom Bailey is the luckiest mother trucker I've ever seen in my life. Hey everybody, you're Steve Morris Engines. I'm Steve, of course. Got something interesting for you. Need to share, need to learn. This is Tom Bailey's out of 2.0. Tom's running at Cleetus and Cars in Indianapolis. Makes the pass against Cleetus. Wins. He's down at the big end of the track and it's making a noise. Tom being Tom, even admits it. And I would understand. He goes, it's making a noise, but I drove it back because there's no way I'm beating Cleetus and not driving it back. So he drives it all the way back. They start figuring out what's going on and notices that the retainer and spring were completely broken on this number 7 intake valve right here. I'm going to show you why it happened, but I'm going to show you an amazing thing. This thing was running with a broken spring, with a broken retainer. The retainer was broken right off of it. Listen to this thing. Come here. And you can look down inside the intake port. This thing was running. That's the valve. You notice that the valve is completely on, going up and down. It was... He has it all apart, but you can see that the valve spring is literally inch shorter than what it used to be. He shot me a picture of it, and the retainer was completely broke off. It was just, the rocker arm was just pushing the valve up and down with no spring retainer or anything on it. It was just nothing there. And somehow, this thing is running with no spring retainer, the valve falling down, hitting the top of the piston, and not destroy everything. That is amazing. Simply amazing. So we're going to take this cylinder, or actually Clarky's here today. Clarky's running the camera. We're going to take both cylinder heads off because I'm going to show you exactly what's going on. We can really see it right there. If you take a look, this is a good picture right here on this. Come over to this side, Clark. You see that? That's rust. All right, now we look at this valve spring really close. We'll go on this side of it. You see this black right here? See if we can get it closer. Shiny. Black. That is rust. In the middle of the spring. All this rust right here. All right, so what happens? This is a very expensive, very good PSI valve spring, 1/500 diameter. This is the Pro Stock, Pro Modified, very good spring. This surface finish is micro polish, peen, blah, 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 blah. I'm not a spring engineer, but I do understand that when this, if you were to hit this little spring with a file, you would probably expect it to break. If you put a little slit or a little cut anywhere on the spring, you would expect it to probably break there. Well, guess what rust does? You ever seen how rust just kind of like pits and corrodes the material away? It puts little micro fractures, it puts little surface imperfections in the springs, makes the springs break. This is not like the spring on your F-150 or whatever, you know what I mean? Yeah, those things get rusty and they're moving, you know what I mean? But this is a valve spring moving 9,000 RPM. And moving basically all the way to coil bind and all the way 50 thousandths from coil bind all the way back up 9,000 RPM. This spring can't take surface imperfections, anything like that, especially when it's made to not have any surface imperfections. Why did it do that? Here is the kicker. Here's what I'm trying to get across to everybody that runs methanol. There's a reason why people vacuum the engines out. This engine, exactly what happened is Tom goes down, tests with it. only on methanol, doesn't run gasoline through it, doesn't run heat cycle it and get all the moisture out of the engine. It's full of moisture. It's in Florida, really full of moisture. Lets it set. You could take the valve covers off of this after it's done something like that, and there will be standing water. I mean, why is this rocker arm rusty? Why are these springs rusty? There's another broken spring right here, and I can see the rust on it. This one right here. Look at how broken that is. And this thing still went 403 like this. But what happens is if you're only running methanol and you're not cycling it and getting hot and you're getting all the moisture out of these things, and or you take the valve covers off of it to let it all air out, your valve springs are going to rust. Cleetus, your valve springs are going to rust if you don't run gasoline through this and get it cycle temperatured. Cleetus was doing a great job on the other engine because it was always running on gas and only raced on methanol. And Garrett would always drive it back and forth on gasoline, would clean up the oil, put temperature in the oil, get all the moisture out of the engine. But now with the SMX, if you're not getting the moisture out of the engine, it's going to rust the valve springs. It's going to break valve springs, drop valves, which that one is a flaming miracle that it is not broke off and destroyed the entire engine. This one over here is a miracle. It's not broke off, destroyed the entire engine. You're going to find all this rust on there. You have to evacuate the systems, get all the moisture out of the engines. It is a problem with methanol engines that don't get hot enough to burn off the milk and the oil, all the condensation. Methanol in the oil, methanol is the same thing to make windshield washer solvent out of because it absorbs water. And guess what? That methanol absorbs water out of the atmosphere. When there's methanol, raw methanol inside your engine, you let the thing park and set for a long time, it absorbs all the moisture out of the air, makes condensation and rust. Rusty springs, broken springs, drop valves. Could be really catastrophic. So we're going to finish pulling this head off. We're going to take a look at everything, show you that whole deal. You can see here that, just like I said, so Clarky just got the cylinder head off. He actually could hear this valve hitting and getting closed. It is just slightly bent. You can just slightly see the, there's a socket for this. Rolling this over. Here. There you go. You can just slightly see on the piston right there. I mean, you can see it was just so lightly touching and hitting and forcing the valve back up. It was running. He heard it running like this. He pulled the valve covers off and went, oh, look at that. And when the valve went and dropped all the way down into it, and then they couldn't roll it over anymore because he was worried it would break it there. So then when they took it out of the car, they had to get the bell housing bolts out. So what they did was just like what Clark did right there, which is the valve was all the way down because nothing was holding it up. He just rolled it over until the piston grabbed it and just lightly pushed it up, pulled the valve rest way up, took the torque converter bolts out, and put it together. So, and we'll be able to, this valve actually comes out. Holy crap. And it's got a little bit of a booger on it. And that is freaking incredible. I don't even know. So that's going to be a really, really, really easy fix. He calls me up and sends me a picture of what had happened, and I go, oh my gosh. I said, it dropped the valve. He said, yeah. And I go, can you move anything? Is it all locked up? No, it's not locked up. And I can move the valve up and down. I go, good. And I thought, well, through it, it's probably just bent and something mangled in there. I mean, it's very lightly bent, but that is the most miraculous break I've ever seen. And this other valve, we haven't taken this, or where is it? It's over here. This one right here with this, you can see how rusty this valve spring is. It's all black right there. Shiny coil, black coil, broke. Black coil broke right through there. Oh, is there another one here? Which one? Oh, this one's, yeah, this one's, see how rusty this is? Broke. How fast this car is, what this thing was doing with valves, could not be in control of valves. Nothing's even hitting pistons on any of these things as is running. Unbelievable. SMX to the front. So what we just did right here is, so we also decided to pull the oil pan and want to check that out, make sure everything looks good. We got the heads all apart. It is for having, here's another one of those broken springs right there. There's one. Oh yeah, that's a nice piece coming out. And you can see here, just like what I was talking about, rusted, it broke. Breaks right where they're rusted at. Amazing thing. So you got that one. We got, this one's broke. That one's broke. That one's all right. And we can also see no rust. The only ones that break are the ones that are rusted. Over on this one, now this one just got some surface rust on it, and this one would probably be ended up breaking if it ever made it that far. And like I said, I am totally stunned, amazed that this thing can run and do what it was doing with broken valve springs, with literally 4 broken valve springs. Now, over here on the short block stuff, we already pulled the pan. You can see that the pan actually had, this was brand new, and has little dingers in it. These little dingers right here, that's all from those little pieces of broken valve spring that actually made it way down into the oil pan. Not a real big deal. That's really nothing to be super concerned about. But if you would have caught Bailey's video on this thing where he locked up the oil pump, the very first time because the piece of valve spring got sucked into the oil pump, locked up the pump, shut the fuel pump off, so he couldn't make a pass. So it was actually hurt before this. Then he goes down to Cleetus and Cars, runs it for however many passes he went there with, I guarantee you, with broken valve springs, and the car still goes 4.0s. It's amazing. If you want to look over here, bottom end looks like $1 million. Very happy with this. There was nothing in the oil pan, no material, nothing there. This thing looks great. Super dodged a bullet, like unbelievable dodging a bullet. Anyways, this stuff looks really good. Thought I'd show you all this stuff. We're going to be putting this thing back together, and got to get back over to working on the wagon engine, doing all that. So we'll be shooting and doing some video on that stuff too. So anyways, I am Steve Morris, Steve Morris Engines. Like, subscribe, buy some merch. Let's see what else we got. I don't know. Anything else. Make sure you're subscribed too, because I continue to see that people get unsubscribed after they thought they were subscribed. Happens all the time. Anyways, I'm Steve Morris.